Hey everyone, welcome back to the neighborhood. It's your friendly neighborhood reviewer with InToIt Reviews. Thanks to KBEAR and Keep Hi-Fi, we're taking a look at the Lark, and what I believe to be the retuned model, not what people are calling the 4K model. Apparently there are two different tunings of this earphone, one based and produced before October 17th, and one produced after it. My unit was ordered and shipped after that date, so I'm assuming I received the newest variant here. But, in any case, let's get into it. Let's start with the packaging. It's a bit larger than most IEM boxes in the price range these days. And since I brought it up, let's briefly mention the price. $30. What you get for that price is pretty extraordinary. The IEM comes with 7 pairs of silicone ear tips, 4 in a gray silicone with a medium-sized bore, and 3 in a clear silicone with a larger sized bore. Both sets of ear tips seem to be constructed of a similar silicone material. It is somewhat on the stiff side, but nice overall. One criticism of the tips in general was that the mediums barely fit into my ears and the large was somewhat too big. I eventually settled on using medium-sized tips, but if I walked around with this IEM, it would wiggle loose or become unseated from my ear canal, which was kind of a nuisance for me personally. But as we all have different size ear canals, your mileage regarding this may vary. But because of this, isolation wasn't the best for me. The shell is shaped a little bit like a guitar pick, and its back is comprised of a clear colored plastic resin material. The set I received is described as a mauve colorway, but it appears more lilac in shade to me. The nozzle is on the thicker side and it is comprised of a gold metal casing and an opaque filter screen. The faceplate is made of a silver metal material with an etched honeycomb pattern on one side of the fatter portion of the faceplate, and the moniker KBEAR is screen printed down the slender tip portion of the faceplate. With further regard to comfort, these were comfortable overall, as their shape nestles easily within my ear. But like I've already said, due to the tips, I did find myself adjusting this IEM quite often in order to keep it sealed. The cable is reminiscent of the new KZ cables that have been coming out. The variant that I was provided with does not come with a microphone, but there is a microphone option that has been produced as well. The cable itself terminates in an angled 3.5mm jack that has a decent amount of extension to it, so I'm hopeful that one will be able to use this cable with the majority of external cases for phones or tablets. Uniquely, the cable initiates in a box-style 2-pin connector that is the same connection as the KS2, but AliExpress labels this as the TFZ connection. And to my surprise, this cable did fit on my TFZ number 3 when I tried it out. While the stock cable was nice, I was also provided with a Tri 4-core crystal copper balanced 2.5mm cable for testing as well. This aftermarket cable came with its own case, was of a much higher quality than the included stock cable, and was soft to the touch. Generally, this was a joy to use, and I utilized it for most of my testing. Although, I did give the stock cable a quick listen, and it sounded identical to my ears. So, I actually received 2 cases with this IEM shipment, one with the aftermarket cable, and one with the IEM itself. And I have to say that I prefer the case that came with the Lark itself here. It is much smaller than the one that was provided with the cable, and it just feels like it will get more use from me as a result of this. While I have been enjoying using the case that came with my Shozi 1.4 to date as my everyday carry case, this case is most likely going to replace that one, as it is of a similar overall size and it's less bulky in the pocket. It is a rectangular, zipper-sealed case, and it has an internal mesh compartment in the lid for additional storage. There is also a cloth loop for a small carabiner if you wish to hang this case from something like a backpack or a fanny pack. There's just enough room inside the case for the IEM and its aftermarket tri-cable, and it is pretty much a functionally perfect case from my point of view. Although, I would have liked for it to have been made out of a leather material instead of a cloth one, and I would have also liked to see a small carabiner provided in the package as well, given its loop. But, for the price, I really can't complain, as the consumer really gets a lot for their money here, included in the box. So let's get into the bread and butter with the sound. Overall, the sound profile here is mostly a linear one. Timbre is warm but neutral enough, and sonics are neither too thick nor too thin. And as this set gets into more hands, I expect it will gain in popularity, as it has the technical prowess to appeal to the audiophile, and a mostly relaxed sound signature which will be pleasing to the common listener. The soundstage is decently wide, spacious, and it has a good depth to it, especially considering the price tag. But it is wider than it is deep, so be aware of that. This IEM is also a standout in the price range regarding imaging, instrument separation, layering, and detail. Decay is astounding, instrument placement is accurate, and peripheral details are also really good. This is one of the most technically capable IEMs that I have ever heard at or under $30. Interestingly, these also remind me a lot of the Jade Audio EA1, a single dynamic driver beryllium IEM, which I also loved. In A/B comparisons with that set, the Lark is mostly the more relaxed set of the two. Sonics are more evenly distributed across its staging, and the stage itself is also notably larger in width. Having said that, I find the EA1 to be somewhat more engaging to listen to between the two, due in part to the EA1 having more energy in both its top end and low end in comparison. But these two IEMs are ultimately more similar than they are different. Like the EA1, the Lark also does a good job of isolating and centering its vocals. However, female vocals are notably more emphasized compared to lower toned male vocals. And I hate to even mention it, because the characteristics here are very slight in their nature, but there is a very tiny amount of vocal sibilance and treble harshness in the brilliance region before the Lark's treble begins to fall off, say around 9K or so. This was notable on the track Crash by the Primitives from the Dumb and Dumber soundtrack. Here, the guitars shimmered more abrasively than in some other sets that I've tested. Having said that, there isn't a ton of air here, but there is some, even despite the fact that I feel the treble does roll off a bit prematurely. The mids, on the other hand, never really seem to produce many deficits, but, like with its vocals, there was some additional presence in the upper mid-range in comparison to the lower one. KBEAR seems to have made a good call here by lowering the 4K peak from its previous tuning, as I would not want any more intensity in the upper mid-range here than what is already present in this set. The Lark also chugs, and it has good bass impact, even if it's less substantial in its amount in comparison to something like the EA1. Generally speaking, the bass of the Lark tends to be a linear one, and it hides most of the time in the background amongst the other sonics, blending in mostly well and only really pushing itself forward when the track calls for it. Nevertheless, I find these quite enjoyable with tracks from the metal genre, where guitar rhythms and palm mutes drive the music forward mostly. But it is also notable that there is an apparent sub-bass roll-off at the bottom end of this set as well, but to my ears this was less offensive than the treble roll-off, and I did not mind it as much for some reason. Overall, the Lark is a balanced, linear, mostly inoffensive set which is rolled off, both in its top and bottom ends. Resolution, detail, and technical capabilities are impressive for its price point, and it comes with a nice accessory package and has a solid, comfortable build as well. While I find earphones such as the EA1 more engaging, I think most will prefer the Lark's more laid-back presentation and wider sound field. And to date, it may be the most well-rounded choice in comparison to other IEMs in the price bracket right now. And just a reminder guys, at the 1000 subscriber mark, I'll be giving away another set of KOS KSC 75s. So make sure to hit subscribe here and follow the channel at its other various neighborhood access locations, such as Twitter, the blog, Instagram, the Discord, or become a Patreon. The Patreon is only $1.50 a month and it gets you access to early written blog reviews from me. And with that, I'm out for now.